Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in with My Hero Academia. This time specifically, we're doing the My Hero Academia manga to anime differences. We're picking this up once again. We're coming in with Season 5, Episode 12. Now, just to let you know, my plan is to come in and talk about differences when there's some interesting stuff happening. So I might not catch all the episodes, but for the notable ones, I will do my best to get a video out for you guys. Anyway, this time around, this episode is very interesting. There's some tomfoolery afoot when it comes to the manga's original timeline. Anyway, episode 12 of season 5 adapts the end of chapter 216, then chapter 217, 218, and 219. With some special notes that we'll get into once I get to it. For this video, I do have a little over 15 differences to chat about. So, without further ado, let's just get right into it. First, they missed this panel. This panel should have been there when Aizawa was speaking at the end of the last episode, but overall, this I think was a really bad move. Honestly, the anime has repeatedly screwed up when it comes to Aizawa and Shinzo. A few times in the past, when there were scenes that would have implied that Aizawa was training Shinzo, the anime skipped right over it. But when you have a situation here, and you're talking about Aizawa and Shinzo, and you have this scene being thrown in there, it's not surprising that the anime has once again dropped the ball with little Aizawa stuff. Next is a minor change. They had a flashback play over Izuku's praise to Shinzo as opposed to this simple sequence. The next change happened in Mineta and Mina's segment. What was one panel got a tiny bit more expanded with one line of dialogue and got the flashback treatment as Mineta was talking. Fourth change, they really like the flashback sequences this episode. The flashback with All Might, that doesn't occur. Also, note that they quite literally flash back to a line that happened less than a minute before. Next change, this entire Eri sequence does not happen in the manga for chapters 216 or 217, but I do believe this is building up to the reveal that happened in chapter 243, where Izuku told us that she was learning how to write. Next up is a minor difference. In the manga, All Might did not just walk off, leaving Izuku in the gym. He instead closed up the gym and said goodbye to Izuku in front of the dorms, like a proper guardian. Next change, Kirishima and Tetsu. This is entirely a minor visual detail, but the anime made this scene manly. Compare what the manga did to this sequence and you'll see the difference immediately. A lot more effort was put in here. Eighth difference, the anime skipped out on this transition where Shoto pulled out his phone. This in the manga was just there to say that he was taking the initiative to text Endeavor. And it would have given you the idea of when exactly it happened. Next difference is actually a really cool difference. They showed Monoma growing the horn instead of just jumping to it. It was neat. Honestly, seeing it actually drawn out like that, I wish they did that for more things. 10th difference is the snow scene. Check out the manga panel and then note what the episode did. Here they started with Kirishima and Mineta outside as opposed to them running very quickly indoors. I think the anime gets a point on this one. Okay, here is where things get wonky. After this shot featuring Detnarat in the TV, we were supposed to go into a very different scene. Now what ends up happening here is that the anime jumps from the beginning of chapter 218 to midway through chapter 218, page 12, skipping the introduction of some critical characters. I assume this stuff is going to happen later. Good luck anime slotting it in there. At this point, we're moving into this fight sequence that happened with Bakugo and Shoto. The next big thing that anime does is that they add to the scale of the mayhem. Note how this wave is taller than 4-story buildings at points. Then note how it looks in the manga. If these guys had the power to summon giant waves like this, they'd be city destroyers. Now mind you, there is another shot where it kind of looks like the wave is big, but then when you look at other panels in the manga, you can see that the waves were not meant to be as large as the anime depicted. Anyway, point is, if those waves were for real, they'd be city destroyers in context of Hero Academia, but they're not. Anyway, at this point, we're crossing from chapter 218 to 219, and of course, there are some small bits that were expanded in the fight scene. I won't cover all of them, but just know this fight scene had some cool little extras. Next up is a small difference, but look at the scene from the manga with Bakugo on the approach and compare it to this in the anime. What's interesting here is that the anime is pretty good at copying, but here they kind of lost the sense of speed that comes from the deforming of Bakugo's face in the manga. This caught my attention because Izuku later on has tons of scenes where the speed deforms his face a little bit, and I really wonder how the anime will depict that in motion, because the author did a really good job with those scenes in general. It's kind of a shame to think that we might lose that unique look to Izuku when he's going at high speeds. The next difference is that the manga was a lot better about showing Bakugo being responsible. Here you can see him rounding up villains as opposed to the anime having him not. And in a similar way, you had him actually carrying wallets. It really seems like the anime did away with having to draw Bakugo in a different pose or with different objects. And the final big notable change is the scene after the end credits. This scene does not happen in the natural flow of chapters 216, 17, 18, and 19. Now, before we close off the video, something should be noted. Again, the anime severely deviated from the source material. In this episode, note how you had this new hero show up, and here how you had a comment about black markets for support goods, and how you had this company on the screen. So what the anime ended up doing was that they've altered the framing devices of the manga. The fight with these randoms wasn't just random, but rather it was supposed to be shown as an effect of the actions of the group behind the scenes. So in regards to timeline, the anime is going off script here, likely because they think they have a better way of framing everything and arranging everything. So in this case, we won't be able to judge what the anime is doing until the very end. That said, it's not like the anime has perfect judgment of what they've done with the adaptation. The anime has already screwed up on little things before, like taking away the foreshadowing of Shinzo Aizawa's training, and in this episode, removing Shirakumo, and then considering their choices of flashing back to something that was said less than a minute prior. They don't have the most impeccable record when we're splitting hairs. As we go forward into Hero Academia, this is one of those spots where we have to approach it with an open mind and see what they ultimately decide to do. The reality is that they're going to catch the gist of the situation. It's very unlikely they're going to miss the big details, but it's very likely they're going to miss some of the smaller details. Anyway, everyone, that's it for me. Those were the differences for episode 12, season 5 of Hero Academia. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.